What happened to you? That is what Senator Adam Schiff asked Todd Blanche. And that line did not come out of nowhere. Before Schiff asked it, he had already walked Blanche through Trump's criminal cases, ethics recusals, fired prosecutors, January 6 convictions, the Mar-a-Lago report, and an IRS settlement tied to Trump. So what was Schiff really exposing? A former prosecutor still serving the rule of law? Or a Trump lawyer using the Justice Department to protect one man? Now let's break this down. Hit subscribe if you want these hearings broken down without the spin, because this is where loyalty to Trump starts colliding with the law.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Blanche, you represented the president in at least three criminal cases: the hush money payment case in New York, the January 6 case, and the Mar-a-Lago classified documents case. You said when you appeared last before this committee you would consult with ethics lawyers about that apparent conflict of interest in handling any case involving the president, having been his personal counsel. Did you consult with Joseph Terrell, a senior ethics lawyer at the department?
I believe I met with Mr. Terrell, yes.
Did Mr. Terrell tell you that ethics laws and policies required that you not be involved in cases involving your prior representation of the president?
Yes.
So in those three matters, the hush money payment case, January 6 case, Mar-a-Lago case, you were to recuse yourself?
I'm recused, correct. Well, by the way, the cases are not ongoing, Senator, but to the extent there's any work around those cases, yes, I'm recused.
So you said to CPAC a couple months ago, the other things that are happening, there is not a single man or woman at the Department of Justice who had anything to do with those prosecutions, meaning the prosecution of the president. So you're saying that it's not a conflict of interest for you to be involved in the firing of prosecutors who prosecuted your client, your former client? There's no conflict there? Is that
no, there is. I wasn't involved.
So
that would be a
at
conflict.
CPAC, you're taking credit for the firing of these Department of Justice lawyers, but you're not willing to take responsibility before this committee. Is that the case?
No.
Okay.
I'm making, there's a
you
statement I gave at
were
CPAC.
bragging about this at CPAC, the firing of these prosecutors, the firing of the FBI agents, the getting rid of everyone who investigated your client. You were proud of that, speaking for the Department of Justice, but you don't think that's a conflict of interest. You moved to vacate, I don't think you're going to deny involvement in this, you moved to vacate the convictions of 12 Proud Boys and Oath Keepers, which erased their convictions, restored their gun rights. These people were convicted in the January 6 investigation, which also involved the president, who you represented. You were involved in dismissing those cases, were you not?
I'm the acting attorney general, so yes, my department moved to dismiss. I was not involved.
So you didn't recuse yourself from that matter. You were
No,
willing?
there's no reason to, from the Proud Boys matter?
Yes,
I mean,
it was.
lawyer,
it
you know
was,
the rules. There are rules that say when I
yes,
have to
there
be
are
recused,
rules,
and that's not one of them.
And there are rules, and when you're told to recuse yourself from investigations that you handle for the president, you're supposed to recuse yourself.
No, when
so
I represented the president.
You have also said, you've also refused to release Volume 2 of the Special Counsel's report. That was an investigation into the Mar-a-Lago documents case. How is that not an abundant conflict of interest? Refusing to release to the public an investigative report of an investigation into your client.
I am not a judge. A federal judge.
No. The department's position under you, Mr. Blanche, was do not release the report.
So that position.
If you went into court asking them to release it, it would be released by now. So how is that not a patent conflict of interest?
What you're saying happens to not be true. I did not do that. What you're talking about happened before I became the Deputy Attorney General.
So you support the release of Volume 2?
No, I don't, but I'm recused and had nothing to do with that case. Like, you can't accuse me of violating my ethical rules and then lie about what I did.
So you had nothing to do with the decision to prohibit the release of the report? You had nothing to do with the department's position?
I wasn't in court.
No, I'm not asking whether you were in court. I'm asking you whether anyone sought your opinion or used your guidance in refusing to release Volume 2.
When
You're saying you had nothing to do with that decision?
Litigation was ongoing, I was a private citizen, still representing the President of the United States. It was before March. Since March, to the extent there's been anything in front of that judge,
Mr. Blanche,
I haven't been part of it.
I asked you in your last confirmation hearing whether you would release the report, and your answer was no. Your answer was not, I will recuse my answer. myself? Your answer was, no, I will not release the report. That was your testimony last before this committee. You subsequently were advised by ethics lawyers not to be involved in these matters, but it appears you were involved in these matters. Let me ask you about another matter.
I wasn't involved.
Well,
you can't say it appears I was involved, but I said I wasn't.
Let me ask you about another one you have your name on.
The truth has to matter at some point.
Yeah, it does matter. We just don't hear much of it from you. But let me ask you about another matter you have your name on. I don't think you can deny responsibility here, and that is the IRS settlement agreement. So you put your name on this. That absolves the president of tax liabilities in the past. The president was convicted in the case you represented him in of falsifying business records in part for tax purposes. Does this settlement not absolve the president of any liability for tax crimes associated with what he's already been convicted of?
That's not what he was convicted of. It not have to do with
tax
purposes.
I'm happy to read the statement of facts. The participants took steps that mischaracterized for tax purposes the true nature of the payments made in furtherance of the scheme. So you know, Mr. Blanche.
The participant there was not the president. It was somebody else.
Well, if the president is conspiring with others to falsify business records to help them cheat on taxes, he is also exposed to liability. You know that as well as I do.
He can't be audited for that.
And of course he can be. Of course he can be. And he can be prosecuted for it. But the agreement you signed on behalf of your former client, on behalf of your current client, in a staggering example of self-dealing prohibits that. Let me ask you this. Does this tax agreement, this addendum you signed, also hold him harmless from any audit or tax liability with respect to the billions in crypto money he made in his first year as president?
It's not forward-looking. So to the extent there are taxes filed by the president or his sons or the Trump organization after the date of that agreement, there's no protection.
Well, but before that agreement. So any taxes...
he hasn't filed taxes yet for money he made last year, right? So
yes.
No.
So if he
no protection.
If he filed tax returns this year for money he earned last year, that his sons earned, that his World Liberty Financial, all those people earned and defrauded taxpayers on it, he faces no liability under this agreement you signed.
There's no evidence taxpayers were defrauded, and he
but,
is
but
not protected.
There's evidence in this agreement that you've absolved him of any liability over.
No, I just said he's not absolved. So the question
So this agreement doesn't apply to a tax return filed last year or filed this year?
To tax returns filed after the date of the agreement? No,
No, before the agreement. A tax return filed in this calendar year before this agreement.
Before the agreement, it applies, not after.
Okay, so for a tax return filed this year for last year, for the billions he made, there's no tax liability even if he cheats on his taxes or his kids do or his business do. He is absolved of that further potential liability.
No.
Well, it's in the plain language of your agreement. Did you write this language, by
You
the
have
way?
to use the facts, though,
Did you-
that he hasn't filed
did you-
taxes yet. So when he files taxes, there's no protection based upon this agreement.
Did you write this language?
Did I type it up myself?
Did you write this language?
No.
Well, you put your name to it.
I did.
So who wrote this?
I don't know the person that actually typed it. I don't know who it is.
Was it one of the president's lawyers, or was it someone from the Justice Department or IRS?
This document would have been
Yes.
somebody within the Department of Justice.
Well, you have no idea who that is.
I don't know the name of the person that typed it up.
And did you debate with them the statute of limitations, which clearly would preclude the president's claim, this $10 billion lawsuit?
We had extensive discussions internally about the underlying litigation.
And did you reject the statute of limitations defense?
I'm not a judge. I don't reject
But
things.
you signed an agreement for the U.S.
There was discussion around the
You signed an
litigation.
agreement for the U.S. basically indicating that the Justice Department's position that the statute of limitations applies doesn't matter.
I did. That's not what I said. I didn't say that anywhere.
Who rejected the 25 defenses the IRS had to this sham lawsuit? Who rejected them? Who said that these defenses we're not going to accept, we're just going to go with the president's agreement in the slush fund, this immunity?
There was a lot of discussion internally.
But you made the decision.
What's the decision? What do you mean?
You made the decision to not defend the IRS and the Justice Department. You made the decision instead to sign this slush fund agreement.
We made the decision to settle the case, correct.
Yeah. And in doing that, you basically decided that you were going to be the lawyer for the president and the lawyer for the IRS and the Justice Department. As the court found in this case, there was no adversarial relationship.
Yes,
the court found it was a sham. It was a collusive relationship. And what I don't understand, Todd Blanche, what happened to the Todd Blanche who was a prosecutor in the Southern District of New York? What happened to the prosecutor people had respect for? What happened to the prosecutor who once respected the rule of law? What happened to the prosecutor who said that there wouldn't be a whiff of political partisanship and then prosecutes the president's enemies over Seychelles cases, over making a video stating the plain law and Constitution? What happened to the Todd Blanche of the Southern District of New York that could convert him into you, someone willing to say the president has both the right and the duty to prosecute his political enemies? I cannot imagine the Todd Blanche of the old days would have ever done that. What happened to you, Todd Blanche? I'll tell you this. I think Robert Caro had it right when he said that power doesn't corrupt as much as it reveals. I suspect it has just revealed who you are. And who you are is someone willing to sacrifice everything you once believed in for that title, for that position of Attorney General. And it is a sad story that we have seen from Trump appointee after appointee after appointee. We have seen people compromise themselves little by little and then a lot by a lot until they're sitting before this committee and trying to justify the unjustifiable. I yield back.
May I just briefly respond, Chairman?
Yes, you may.
Very briefly. So you asked me what happened to Todd Blanche. I am still here. I am the same exact person I was when I was a federal prosecutor in the SDNY, which is do the right thing and do everything you can to keep communities safe. So when I was a line prosecutor, when I was a supervisor, when I was the head of a division, my motivation and my goal was the same thing with the people who worked with me and worked for me, which is do the right thing, enforce the laws, and put bad guys in jail. And so you spend time talking about, I did not interrupt you. I did not interrupt you. A little courtesy would be appropriate. So when you ask me what has changed, okay, and you talk about a single document that I signed, okay, and somebody had to sign that document when the president sued, okay, so I tried to do the right thing. What I do every single day, and what the prosecutors in this country do every single day, and the nearly 100,000 indictments and informations that have been filed since January 20th, is exactly what everybody in this building should want the Department of Justice to do, which is to make our communities safer, enforce the laws, both civilly and criminally, and always do the right thing with integrity, which is exactly what I'm doing. So I am the same Todd Blanche I was when I was a federal prosecutor in the SDNY.
Schiff began with the conflict of interest. He reminded Blanche that he had represented Donald Trump in multiple criminal cases, the hush money payments case, the Mar-a-Lago classified documents case, and other matters involving Trump personally. Then Schiff asked whether Blanche had consulted ethics lawyers. Blanche said he believed he had met with Joseph Tyrell. Schiff pressed him. Did ethics rules require Blanche to stay out of cases involving his prior representation of Trump? Blanche acknowledged that in certain matters, he had to recuse himself. That was the first key moment, because Blanche was not just any Justice Department official. He had been Trump's lawyer. Then he moved into a position of power inside the Justice Department. That creates an obvious problem. The Justice Department is not supposed to become a personal defense operation for the president. It is supposed to serve the law, not Trump, not Trump's lawyers, not Trump's political interests. The law. Then Schiff turned to the prosecutors who worked on Trump cases. He accused Blanche of bragging about getting rid of people who investigated his former client. Blanche denied being involved. He said that if he had been involved, that would be a conflict. But Schiff kept pressing, because the issue was not only whether Blanche signed a particular memo. The issue was whether the Justice Department was being used to purge people connected to Trump prosecutions. That is a much bigger question. Were prosecutors removed because they failed, or because they worked on cases Trump hated? That is the difference between management and retaliation. Then Schiff moved to the January 6th cases. He said Blanche moved to vacate convictions of 12 Proud Boys and Oath Keepers. He said that restored their gun rights. Then Schiff tied those cases back to Trump. He asked whether Blanche was involved in dismissing them. Blanche said yes. He said he was the acting attorney general, and his department moved to dismiss. That answer mattered because Schiff's argument was simple. If Blanche had to recuse himself from matters involving Trump, then why was he involved in decisions connected to January 6th? Why was he involved in cases tied to Trump's political movement? Why was he acting in matters that, in Schiff's view, touched the same conflict? Then Schiff said the rule clearly. When you are told to recuse yourself, you are supposed to recuse yourself. That was the theme of the entire hearing. Rules only matter if powerful people follow them. Then Schiff turned to the Mar-a-Lago report. He said Blanche had refused to release part of the special counsel report involving the classified documents case. That case involved Trump, and Trump was Blanche's former client. So Schiff asked the obvious question: how is that not a conflict of interest? Blanche pushed back. He said he was not a federal judge. Schiff answered that the department's position under Blanche was not to release the report. He said if the department had gone into court asking for the report to be released, it would be public by now. Then Schiff asked again, how is that not a patent conflict of interest? Blanche denied it. He said Schiff's claim was not true. He said he was recused. He said he had nothing to do with that case. Then Blanche accused Schiff of lying about what he did. That was the temperature shift. But Schiff did not back away. He asked whether anyone sought Blanche's opinion or used his guidance in refusing to release the report. Blanche said that when the litigation was ongoing, he was still a private citizen representing Trump. But Schiff reminded him that he had previously been asked whether he would release the report, and Schiff said Blanche's answer was no. That is the tension. Blanche says recusal. Schiff says involvement. Blanche says he had nothing to do with it. Schiff says the department's conduct and Blanche's own testimony raised serious questions. Then Schiff moved to the IRS settlement, and this became the most explosive part of the exchange. Schiff said Blanche put his name on an agreement that absolved Trump of past tax liabilities. Then Schiff tied that agreement to the hush money case. Trump had been convicted in a case Blanche represented him in, and Schiff said that case involved falsifying business records, in part for tax purposes. Then Schiff asked whether the settlement protected Trump from any tax liability connected to conduct already at issue. Blanche pushed back. He said that was not Trump. He said it was someone else. Schiff answered that if Trump helped someone cheat on taxes, Trump could still face liability. Then Schiff said the agreement Blanche signed blocked that. He called it a staggering example of self-dealing. That was the core charge. A former Trump lawyer signed an agreement that Schiff argued benefited Trump. That is not a small ethics issue. That is the kind of thing that makes people lose faith in the entire system. Then Schiff asked about crypto money. He asked whether the tax agreement also protected Trump from audits or tax liability connected to billions in crypto money. Blanche said Trump had not filed those taxes yet. Schiff kept pressing. If Trump filed tax returns this year for money earned last year, would he be protected? Blanche said no. Schiff said the plain language showed otherwise. Then Schiff asked a simple question. Did you write this? Blanche said he did not type it himself. Schiff sharpened the point. But did you put your name to it? Blanche said yes. That was another key admission, because Schiff was not asking who physically typed the document. He was asking who owned it, who approved it, who stood behind it. Blanche admitted his name was on it. Then Schiff asked who rejected the defenses the IRS had to Trump's lawsuit. Who decided not to defend the IRS? Who decided to accept the president's agreement? Blanche said there had been extensive internal discussions, but Schiff said Blanche made the decision. Schiff said Blanche chose not to defend the IRS and the Justice Department. Then Schiff made the charge even sharper. He said Blanche decided to be both the lawyer for the president and the lawyer for the IRS and the Justice Department. That is the heart of the scandal. You cannot represent both sides when the interests collide. You cannot protect Trump and claim to represent the United States if Trump's interests are against the public interest. You cannot be the president's lawyer and the people's lawyer at the same time. Then Schiff said the court found there was no adversarial relationship. He said the court found it was a sham. That is when the hearing became personal. Schiff stopped talking only about the document. He turned to Blanche himself. He asked what happened to the Todd Blanche who had been a prosecutor in the Southern District of New York. What happened to the prosecutor people respected? What happened to the prosecutor who once respected the rule of law? What happened to the person who said there would not be a whiff of political partisanship? That was the moral indictment. Schiff was not just accusing Blanche of bad lawyering. He was accusing him of transformation, or worse, exposure. Then Schiff said Blanche had become someone willing to say the president has the right and duty to prosecute his political enemies. Blanche denied saying that, but Schiff kept going. Then came the line, "What happened to you?" That was the moment, because the question summed up everything. The recusals, the firings, the January 6th cases, the Mar-a-Lago report, the IRS agreement, the Trump loyalty, the Justice Department's credibility. Schiff was asking whether Blanche had abandoned the rule of law for power. Then Schiff quoted the idea that power does not corrupt as much as it reveals. He said power had revealed who Blanche was, someone willing, in Schiff's words, to sacrifice everything he once believed in for a title, for a position, for power. Then Schiff said, this was a sad story, seen again and again with Trump appointees. People compromise themselves little by little, then a lot by a lot, until they sit before Congress trying to justify the unjustifiable. That was the closing blow, because Schiff was no longer arguing one document. He was arguing a pattern. A Trump lawyer becomes a Justice Department official. The people who investigated Trump face consequences. Cases tied to Trump's movement get unwound. A report about Trump stays hidden. An IRS agreement appears to benefit Trump. And the official at the center of it says he is just doing the right thing. Blanche asked to respond. He said he was still the same Todd Blanche. He said he was the same person he had been as a federal prosecutor. He said his goal was to do the right thing, to enforce the law, to put bad guys in jail, to make communities safer, to act with integrity. That was his defense. But Schiff's question still hung over the room, because saying do the right thing is easy. The question is whether the record shows it. Did recusal mean recusal? Did conflict of interest mean conflict of interest? Did the Justice Department defend the United States, or did it defend Trump? That is why this hearing matters. Schiff did not simply accuse Blanche of being partisan. He built a chain. First, Trump's former lawyer enters the Justice Department. Then, prosecutors tied to Trump cases are targeted. Then, January 6th convictions are moved against. Then the Mar-a-Lago report becomes a conflict issue. Then, an IRS settlement appears to protect Trump. Then, Blanche admits his name is on the agreement. Then, Schiff asks the question that cuts through every legal dodge. What happened to you? The final point is simple. The Justice Department only works if the public believes it serves the law, not the president, not the president's former lawyer, not the president's revenge agenda, not the president's personal liabilities, the law. And when a former Trump lawyer sits before Congress defending decisions that appear to benefit Trump again and again, people have every right to ask whether the Justice Department is still independent, or whether loyalty has become the job.